So
I'm gonna pause you. I'm gonna pause you right there. I'm gonna pause you right there, Alex, and I'm gonna say welcome everybody to Maven Monday. We get together every week and we talk about cool things going on in the crypto space right now. The biggest thing is RWAs. And so welcome everybody. If you want to come up, ask questions, do anything like that, please send in a request or leave a comment down below. Maybe we'll get to your questions. All right, now Alex, sorry to pause you. So what's up with MakerDAO? And why is everybody talking about MakerDAO and RWAs? If it's not like a real RWA, why does it keep getting blasted all over my feed?
Well, mostly because they've bought $2 billion worth of something and then issued something like $1 billion worth of a stablecoin based on that value. But what MakerDAO did is essentially, well, there's a long storied history to it. With MakerDAO used to be single asset, and then it went to multi-asset when it became DAI, and then so basically it used to only be backed by Ethereum, and then it was backed by multiple forms of collateral. And then it ended up being that essentially something like 50% of DAI was backed by USDC, which was kind of against what MakerDAO kind of started to be in terms of its ethos. So there's a lot of different reasons why they've moved, but then now they've taken their treasury and bought up just a ton of I don't even want to call them RWAs, but they bought up a bunch of assets, and those assets produce a yield, and because those produce a yield, and they end up paying them to I believe they pay it to the DAI savings rate, the DSR. I'm not exactly sure where that yield is running to, but the point being is they have $2 billion that they've used to buy assets, yield generating assets, but you can't really consider them RWAs if they're not. RWAs is a term that refers to tokenized assets on chain. If they're not tokenized, then why are you considering them tokenized? You know what I mean?
Yeah, that's very odd. So I guess the next basic question would be, how does Maven plan on doing it better or differently even?
Well, it's a completely different model in that sense. With Maven, you're going to be able to take the assets. So with MakerDAO, what you do is you collateralize a loan, and then you collateralize basically your kind of like a vault, and you mint DAI, which is a collateral-backed, algorithmically stabilized stablecoin. So there's not actually like fiat capital in the bank backing it up like you get with USDC. With Maven and lending, it is you take your tokenized RWAs, deposit them into a vault, and because there's all this like there's an actual RWA token sitting in the vault can recognize that token is there. The satellite nodes provide data feeds for the value of the assets in that vault, and then you can go and borrow different stable coins that we have. So it's a completely different type of form of lending. We're not minting the stable coins you're borrowing. We're just facilitating you to borrow stable coins that other people lend into the pool.
Okay, and that's actually a great segue into lending. But before we do that, I want to welcome Crip King to the stage. Welcome, man. Welcome, welcome. You just joined up on the RWA talk, so I wanted to give you a chance to jump in before we dive into lending.
Yeah, welcome. Thank you, man. Appreciate it. Yeah, a lot of news. I was looking at the Citibank news on the stuff that they're doing, and also the news on the Iowa, what was it this morning? Tokenized assets redefined as personal property and landmark Iowa digital asset bill. So yeah, a lot of interesting stuff out there, and I look forward to talking this morning.
Look forward to hearing from you, man. And yeah, John, you don't come up very often, but hey, man, if you want to come up, please do. Viz, I see you just joined. It'll take you a minute to hear this, but we're just starting. We're talking about RWAs, and we're gonna be talking about lending and different things like that. So if you have any questions, please come up, Viz. Yeah, it's we're here to educate you guys, not just toot our own horns and blow smoke up each other's butts, right? So yeah, if you have any questions, come up. Now, Alex.
Theo, that's only on the weekends.
Yeah, right.
Only on the weekends.
Yeah. So
Bro, they
Alex,
arrested that one guy for tickling people's booties. I don't know if y'all saw that video, but it was a real world thing. Like, this is a real story. So when you said that, I was like, is he referring to that joke? You know, like, or something?
I did not see that, but I don't disbelieve it
This
either.
is a real story. This is not me like trolling or anything. This is a real story.
Oh, post-COVID, bro, I believe you. Post-COVID, I totally believe you. I wouldn't have believed that in like 2018. In 2024, yeah, no, that makes sense.
Sorry to, this is the Degen side of me. Sorry.
No, it's okay, Crypt King. We'll just issue a, real world booty token, booty tickle token.
Oh, let's
Out of
go.
like dog whiff hat.
Degen RWAs. Let's go.
Yeah, that's not not a bad idea. Make tokens. That's a whole side tangent. I'm not even going to go on. Yeah, there's a lot of DeFi happening right now in different sections of the crypto sphere, and it's looking kind of interesting when it comes to all this stuff. But
Not only that, but like, dude, the influx from the ETF, I think we're close to 3 trillion now or something. Like, and if you saw before ETF, we're sitting like 0.7 trillion, like something like that. So like, money is coming in, shit is starting to get active. And so, yeah, like, I'm excited to learn, excited to get in front of all this stuff, like, so yeah, I couldn't be happier. I saw, I think Ethereum hit like 29 this morning. I was like, okay, yeah, with all this influx of money coming in and everything, we might have just triggered on, so I look forward to all this.
Well, all we need now is for Luna to come back because Celsius started returning user funds. So what we need now is Luna to make a comeback and like burn, I don't know, 90% of its supply or whatever it is, and then all of a sudden you're gonna get Three Arrows Capital coming back. Yeah, we're back, baby. We're back.
oh, how stupid is that? How true that is. If Luna just like burned half their supply, they'd suddenly be number one again after what happened. That's 100% true. That's crypto in a nutshell right there. Um, I will say I'm pretty excited on everything. Yeah, I haven't paid too much attention, Crypt King, to what's going on with the ETF. Basically, out of just I don't know, I guess envy or jealousy, one of those. So I hold no crypto, zero assets. All my wallets were liquidated if I had anything left towards the beginning of the year. So I hold nothing. So the crypto can do whatever it wants. If it goes to the moon, I'm gonna just be sitting right here, like in this space. Just
Well, the good thing about that is, like, when you give your takes, like when I give my takes, if I'm in certain rooms, I got to say, disclosure, I hold Bitcoin, or disclosure, I hold ETH, like, so at least you can just give straight up takes and not have to disclose what you hold, Or you could do opposite disclosure. I don't hold any of this, so this is my hot take, and I have no.
right.
Yeah.
That's exactly it. That's exactly it, right? And I think that's what um gives me an edge over other space hosts. I like to keep that edge. So I'm very weary of things I do invest in because I know I'll have to disclose that, right? And I don't want to. It's almost like, oh, now I can't say my real. I want to always be able to say my real opinion on stuff, as everybody tends to know. Like if you were in my last space, the last thing that I hosted. Yeah, I like to say my opinion.
Look, Theo, I don't own any crypto. I have lost a few wallets. I don't know where they are. I don't know. I don't own anything. I'm really bad with my
boat
keys.
accidents, right?
That's what I was gonna say.
Yeah.
Theo's basically the most OG person here because the amount of boating accidents this guy's had in the middle of like a mountain in New Hampshire, right? That's impressive, Theo. That's impressive.
That's what I keep trying to tell everybody.
When your catchphrase is "Oops, there went another ledger," that's how you know that too many boating accidents.
Yeah, I know.
Like in 50 years, like when like ponds and lakes, God forbid, dry up, people are gonna go to them and be like little metal detectors scourging for them for ledgers instead of instead of like little nuggets of gold.
Oh man, you got me dying laughing. I'm not gonna get into too much detail, but I live close to Maine, right? Maine being the lobster state of the country or world or whatever they claim they are. Lots of lobster traps and nobody checking those buoys at all. At all. Ain't nobody going. It is, I believe, against the law to bring up someone else's trap. So you don't know what is at the end of that rope. It could be a lobster cage. It could be a bucket full of some goodies.
Theo, you might be too young for this, but there's a whole Seinfeld episode about that.
Oh God, no! I don't remember the episode. I'm just young enough to know what Seinfeld is, but not watch the show in its entirety.
I think there may be needing to reconsider this friendship, Theo. You have not seen Seinfeld?
Well, I've seen it, obviously, but I wouldn't say I watched it in the same way like I watched 30 Rock growing up. You know what I mean?
Theo, it's kind of like mandatory reading or mandatory onboarding for Mavryk and for MavenFinance is to like watch Seinfeld.
Okay, okay. As long as I don't have to watch
this is the one.
Frasier, I'm good.
So like, I'm an awkward individual. Like, I hate Seinfeld and I hate Lord of the Rings. And like everybody that I know is like, those are the two shows that changed my life. And like, yeah. So like, I don't know. I just like never got Seinfeld. It was a show about nothing, and I get that, but like I just never got it. Like I just, it just like I don't know. It just never got it.
So it's like most blockchains.
Yes, that is true. Now I get it.
Oh, well, I mean, so I'm 50-50 with you there because I grew up on Seinfeld. I absolutely love it. It's got a level of 90s humor and honestly grace that the world doesn't have anymore. But when it comes to Lord of the Rings, I'm so with you there because to me, Lord of the Rings was like my military service. Walk, 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 walk. Blow up the ever living hell out of something. Walk, 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 walk. Blow up the ever living hell out of something. And it just went on for like 97,000 hours. Well, Sam's a little different. Sam got a chariot, so
yeah, it's quite nice.
Well, my sister's opposite. Like my sister read every Harry Potter book at least 3+ times, and like she loved Lord of the Rings, and I was like always on the outside, like, no, I'm trying to make money, I'm trying to find the next thing, and I have no time for none of that stuff. And so literally I don't think I've watched TV in 10 years besides like surfing, or I watch a lot of camping. Fucking, a lot of people make fun of me because my favorite thing to do is watch people camp while I'm like doing art or something like that. And it's like, I don't watch normal TV, And sports, to me, a long time ago, I realized sports, it's just not good for the the mental, because you start cheering and then you get your heart broken, and it's like, I can't do nothing about that, like, so I stopped watching sports also a long time ago.
can I just ask a clarifying question? You watch other people camping?
Yes.
Like you don't do the camping
Every
yourself?
once in a while,
You watch other people doing the camping.
every once in a while I do, but like I don't know what it is. Like seeing other people
Oh
camp.
no, it's okay. This is where Alex and Sam get too old. This is where you guys hit your.
Is there a live stream for this?
Yeah.
Like
Yeah.
you can
There's
watch a live stream of someone else camping?
Yes,
Yeah.
there's a guy in New Zealand that he does the off-road camping, it's called, and he's huge on YouTube. And yeah. Do you know in New Zealand the island of New Zealand there is no rats, there's no rodents, so like they can camp, and there's no bears, so they can camp also, like, and leave their shit on the ground, and there's no scorpions, there's no spiders, there's none of that stuff, so like they have it real nice over there.
Yeah, there's a bunch of different stuff, guys. I know you guys don't spend a lot of time on YouTube, but yeah, one of the biggest trends right now amongst men is watching, camping videos. Garden videos are huge, like lawn mowing videos. You just watch someone mow someone's lawn. Like my favorite YouTuber in this category is Dan something, and he pans gold.
In the lawn mowing?
Yeah, lawn mowing.
In the lawn mowing category?
Yeah, oh yeah. The guy I watch, Dan Hurd, he just he literally just sits on a river and pans gold. He doesn't even fucking talk. And it's my favorite thing to watch.
Man, I am so disconnected from Gen Z.
That one's actually good. I've seen the.
Neither me or Chris King are anywhere close to Gen Z.
Calm.
It's just that's YouTube today, man. You guys just aren't like heavy into the weird back rooms of YouTube. I don't know.
Yeah, well, you know, I was on that that kick about cutting all the cable providers, right? And so I cut all of them. And so I was left with YouTube. So you got to kind of find what's interesting there. And then, like I said, I realized very early that, like, you know, TV does certain things to got to get you to stress, get you this, that. So I found programming that actually keeps me level. And that's like, if I want to get a little excited, I watch surfing. You know, they have a live surfing, and I think it's in Florida or something, where it's just no talking. It's just live surfing all day long. And then at night times, I'll watch the camping. And like I said, it's just one guy. He goes out there with one of those satellite link things, so he can get service anywhere, and he sits there and toughs it out, you know. And to me, that's like, I want to be there. I want to be doing that, you know, like. And so I don't connect no more with like football and cheering and all that bullshit. It's like, nah, I don't. I'm watching somebody else make money, you know, like I need to like be in a relaxing setting, you know.
That's exactly how I look at it.
I mean, if you remember, remember 24 with Kiefer Sutherland back in the day, and like they literally had a countdown every show of like what catastrophic thing will happen in the next 24 hours.
Yeah, that was crazy. That went on too long. It was so good for the first season, and then you were like, okay, second season, okay, 2 days, all right, and then you get like 10 season in, and you're like, can this guy just have one day where he just chills out and like just does his laundry or something?
Hey, that's what I want to know about, like the guy from Fast and the Furious, from Vin Diesel character, right? Dom. Like, does Dom ever have a normal year, or is he always got to like steal a car and drive it out of the Burj Khalifa or launch a car into space, or like does he do laundry? Like how are his like his like white like shirts always clean, but he never does laundry?
I never thought about it. All I know is in Fast and Furious, they have multiple gears for reverse. You ever notice that? They go into reverse and then they'll shift when they're reversing. It's the craziest shit you'll ever see. All right, we got too deep. I'm too much of a nerd to be talking about this stuff.
I was going to ask Alex and Sam, have y'all been keeping up with all the L2s, L3s, Blast ecosystem, all this new stuff that's coming? Are y'all keeping up with like kind of what's going on, you know?
That was for both of us.
That was for both of us?
Yeah, Alex and
All
Sam.
right.
You said first.
All right, I guess I got okay for sure. So yes, I kind of actually wrote a post about that because I accidentally sent some USDC to a USDT account, and it ended up, you know, it's with all my experience in this field, you still make mistakes, which is unbelievable, but nothing crazy, but just still aggravating, and it really highlighted to me about just the element of how fragmented the L2 and L3 space is. And so there are, you know, there are no like almost dApps anymore, right? Everyone and their mother is launching an L2. And I do believe that there needs to be, you know, L2s make things better for different reasons, depending on what they are. And I'll retract for 1 second. When I say better, I mean, I think we're going to get to an era where we have niche focused L1s and L2s. And so right now we just kind of have these like general purpose blockchains or general purpose L2s. And I think it's going to whittle down to niche L2s or L1s, because one, we need to focus on scalability. And if you kind of shard your execution to multiple L2s, that kind of helps. Like think about how Visa and MasterCard are on completely two different systems. That's like almost like having two different L1s or L2s, just different networks. But two, because you're going to see essentially roll-ups, the main L2 of today, essentially allows you to start a new ecosystem and focus on business development in a more easy to deploy manner. And so you're going to get teams that want to launch a business product, but then control some form of either how the chain operates, how it's set up, how whether it has KYC or what its niche focus is. Is it going to be one specifically for gaming? Is security more paramount than settlement time? Is settlement time less paramount than some form of like easy to use wallet? So we're keeping up with this whole L2 thing, but you know, when you have an L2, you end up having no validators, so you don't really get this ecosystem of people to build your chain alongside with you. And I'm slowly writing a theory on the difference between how chains have come into not existence, but how their economies have scaled, and why secondary like blockchains have failed at scaling their economies. And this also goes towards L2s. They're choosing airdrops for, I'm kind of on a massive tangent here, but they're choosing airdrops for legal liabilities. But what they end up doing is that they have no one there to actually build their ecosystem for them. And that's why I think a lot of them are failing. So that's a very long answer to your question.
No,
I think Sam's going to say something.
go ahead, Sam.
Shorter.
Sam, I want to hear what Sam has to say.
Oh, what was this question about?
Sam got lost.
Yeah.
Oh, I was asking about if you're keeping up with like the Blast ecosystem. You know, they got 1.4 billion about to get unlocked, and and all that stuff.
Alex and I talk about this a lot, and how the usage of airdrops and how that brings a lot of people to your L2, your L1. Whether or not that's actually healthy for the ecosystem, what airdrop farmers, all of this, I've been following it lightly. Blast specifically, not so much. I got an invite code, I think, from Blind Ripper back in the day, and bridged some stuff over to that. But it really just depends on what type of ecosystem you want to build, how you want to foster it, how you want to get mass adoption, and what that looks like. Do I want to have just use a bunch of influencers to spam no, just a bunch of influencers and have them believe in the product? That'd be great. I'd love that. And that's kind of what you want to go for. You want to find people that believe in the product and like it and help build it.
Well, I think building on what Sam just said, also you have, if you take a look at how Starknet did their airdrop, and I think that really is changing the focus of how airdrops are moving forward. And that's something also that we, this team, are looking close into, because
Wait. Can you say about the Starknet? Because okay, so I don't know if y'all heard about the news this morning, but because I was writing an article on it right now. So because of that Starknet airdrop, you have a ton of people, over 1,000 people this morning going to GitHub, spamming the GitHub channels because of that one guy who got 2,000 tokens because he made a error comment on the Starknet GitHub repository. So like I'm wondering, are you talking about that, or what were you referring to when you said the Starknet?
Well, it's the whole thing, right? Like that is one aspect of Starknet's strategy for their airdrop that I think they're in damage control mode right now. They really and I believe it or not, this is actually a strategy that I discussed with an investor. I don't know, maybe 4 months ago, of how they did their airdrop from kind of like backtracking when they count their vesting going forward. But what you're talking about, like spamming the GitHub, they essentially gamed intentional. Well, they didn't say they gamed it, but they structured their airdrop so that it basically gave the devs more tokens than the rest of the ecosystem. So there's a Starknet airdrop, but it didn't really go out to anybody. It went internal. And what you're saying is one individual aspect of that entire airdrop conundrum.
I'm going to jump in here as somebody who has not heard of any of this crap. And I'm just going to politely ask what the F nugget is an L3. You guys know you said that, right? You said that. And I've been sitting here this whole time, like, the ecosystem I just kind of left is still trying to figure out what an L2 is. And you
Well,
slapped me in the face with L3.
well, if you're getting slapped in the face with an L3, there's also a layer 0 now. So
What
get
the
ready for
layer?
that as well.
Yeah, okay. Jesus, what's layer 0? I'm so confused. So now we have
So
nomenclature that is
layer
beyond
3 right now, as far as I know, is being used more for gaming. It's the Xi network. XAI is the one that I know of. That's and they're working with Immutable X, and it's doing the more like kind of bulk auto simulation type of transactions where maybe you have gaming, you have something like that. Layer 0, I still don't understand it. Like, so that one is a great question for anybody that knows. But yeah, layer 3s is kind of like I said, the only ones I know on there is the Xi network, XAI, and they just had a pre-sale on nodes you could have got on their blockchain, and they're doing more of the gaming stuff that I know of, more bulk transactions and things like that.
That's interesting. Because I said in one of the last spaces that I believe gaming would probably use L2s and maybe the new RWA systems that we're all building to better be able to produce these games. So L3, that's interesting. I'm gonna have to dig
And
further into
also,
that.
Rari chain Rarible just opened. If you look, and then also Apes, Ape chain is gonna go. I don't know. They said right now it's on Arbitron, but I don't know if they're gonna use a layer 3 transaction on it. But yeah, like there's a lot of stuff going on from what I see right now. And then, like I said, Rarible, they're using their Rari chain, which is a separate platform kind of rollout. That's going through a layer 3 as well. So it's a lot of interesting movement out there right now. Layer 2 right now, you have Blast Network, which I think is going through Optimism if you look at it, and then you have Arbitron. But yeah, and then layer 0, I heard about it just very, very briefly, and then somebody stopped talking about it, so I didn't really dig on that more.
My best guess is, I mean, isn't it just Coinbase in finance? Like,
I
right,
have no
layer 0.
idea.
You know,
I heard layer 0 was the cheapest gas one out there, but then I thought that was layer 3, and I was like, holy shit, I'm so
I
confused.
was so confused. Yeah, that got to be just a term people are throwing out there, right? Like, just something someone made up to be like cool, right? And now it's kind of catching in the ecosystem in some way. Layer 0, maybe someone can better explain it. Sam, I see you unmuted, but yeah, it just sounds like Coinbase. I mean, the platform you use to buy crypto.
No. So layer 0 is basically a protocol level that allows you to launch other layer 1s. So think of Cosmos as a layer 0, and then you have well, this is why it gets a little confusing for Cosmos, because the apps basically on top of Cosmos are actually their own layer 1s, which I think is this is where it goes back, Crypt King, to what you were asking before about keeping up with the L2s. You end up fragmenting your user base and confusing the ever living shit out of mainstream users. So it I'm not a fan of non monolithic blockchains. I think we need to create ecosystems where you can easily interact with one thing to another. And yes, Cosmos has IBC, the inner blockchain connectivity layer there, that allows you to bridge from layer 1 to layer 1. But there's a certain way you have to bridge across from every one to the other one. And when you get rollups, going from rollup A to rollup B basically takes 14 days, because you still have to essentially bridge down to the L1 and then bridge back up to the other rollup. So but in terms of layer 0s, it's a layer to launch other blockchains. Layer 1, it's all kind of becoming a bit convoluted. But now you get a layer 2, which is, for all intents and purposes, for the vast majority, are optimistic rollups, as in a layer 2. With Starkware, I think Polygon's all. I'm not sure if Polygon ZK rollup is out yet, but Starkware is essentially a ZK rollup. And what ends up happening is you have just another execution environment. But if you're working on an application if you're using an application on Starkware as a layer 2, and you want to go bridge across to Polygon, or you want to bridge across to Optimism or Arbitrum, you have to essentially take 14 days and bridge down unless you use a third-party Dapp to kind of like take that risk on it. It's a long story, but for me, I think that it's the future needs to be monolithic experiences and not fragmented experiences across layer 2s.
I agree, because what happens, like you said, they use the airdrop, but then the person never comes back to the ecosystem. It's like, yeah, I made it there to claim, but then I
Is
never
Crip
go
King
back.
talking? Because I can't hear him. Maybe.
Yeah, I'll drop down and come
I
back
hear
up.
him. I hear Crip King. Can you hear me, Alex?
I can hear you.
Okay.
I can't hear Crip King.
Yeah, I'm gonna drop down and come back up.
Okay. All right. So very interesting conversation here. Layer 3s, layer 0s, and a bunch of other terms I never heard of because I was trapped in my little bubble. That's very interesting, and I'm very curious to see how that impacts everything. And I'm trying to think of like, how does this all relate to Maven? Let's try to get this back to a Maven space, right?
Yeah, I actually have a bit of insight on this one. So when it comes to RWAs, so yes, there are other dApps and third-party entities that can actually bridge your assets, like a stablecoin or your ETH, from your L2 back down to the L1, so that you can bridge across more quickly. You pay a fee, fine, but that works because they hold liquidity in said asset, so they take on that risk for you. When we get into a wider ecosystem of tokenized RWAs, we're not going to be able to have these third-party companies that are just stockpiling liquidity of some random RWA token. Call it a hotel in Abu Dhabi. They're not just going to be sitting on a pile of liquidity waiting for you to go in and out. Maybe they will, but chances are not likely. So when it comes down to Maven, our choice of where we deploy is really going to be based on the best layer 1 when it comes to a monolithic experience, and that is not going to come from the 762nd like EVM L2. That is something that that will apply to us. So but that being said, we are in the talks with some layer 2s, specifically on EVM, and it's quite an interesting thing to see what they all have working behind the scenes.
Okay, here's the question. So a lot of talk this week on ERC 404, and I know people like, don't call it ERC. I get it. So my question is, because I was in a lot of those spaces where it was a lot of debate going on from devs, and then everybody kept saying this sentence where it's like, nobody's going to use ERC 404, but they're just going to use RWA securitization contracts. But what the hell? Nobody's defined what an RWA securitization contract standard is or anything. Like, is number one, is there a difference between what we're seeing between, like, I know there's a difference between the 404s and what we're going to see with RWAs, but I still don't know, like, what is the standard for the RWA? What is the like nothing as far as like.
Okay, so
Go ahead.
the ERC 404 is an experimental. No, I'm not. I'm talking else. Can everyone hear me?
Yeah, I can hear you.
Great.
Oh man, I'm gonna drop down and come back up. Something's wrong on my end.
Yeah.
All right.
So the ERC 404 is an experimental token standard that they decided to take part of the NFT token standard and the ERC 20. Well, then combine them. Take bits of both. Okay. That is not that's used for RWAs and for regulated assets, which RWAs will be regulated assets. Just what will happen for like 99.9% of them. Maybe not like if you decide to tokenize a gold bar that you have in your house. I don't know. But for the majority of them, they will be the vast majority. They will be regulated assets. There's also the CM. So there's the CMTA token standard, a token that came out from on Tezos, I believe. That one is an interesting roadmap for how to build a token for real assets. We looked into that for what we were building for MavenFinance, and we ended up making a bunch of different ended up taking inspiration from that and from other things to build out a not quite token standard, but some sort of roadmap and template for the RWAs that we will be bringing on to as collateral assets for Maven.
So you said C,
the actual
C is in Charlie, M is in Mary, T is in Tom, A is in Alex. CMTA.
Yeah, I'm pretty sure. I'm going to find the exact link for the GitHub and I'll send it to you.
All right, so this is interesting. So to back up, right? Because we are so advanced here as users of blockchains, and I want to keep it relatively to the base level so we can share this out and teach people, right? ERC 404. So let's back up quickly.
Well, Theo, real quick, they just came out, like, so when we talk about ERC 404, we also, I don't know if y'all heard about the DN 404 as well, because that's also
no.
Yeah.
I was gonna back you up and
Theo,
have
I
you
wanted to
explain what ERC is, right? Because we have a lot of people that might be listening. ERC 20.
No.
What is that? What is?
I'm not going to go down into different Ethereum token standards, but it just because it's a whole world in and of itself. But
Yeah, it's pretty advanced.
When it comes down to like different security token contracts that you have out there, you're right, Crit King. There is no standard. There's no standardization across the board whatsoever. So you've got ERC. I think from Tokeny, you've got like the T-Rex standard. It's ERC 4636. If I remember that off the top of my head. You've got CMTA, which is on Ethereum and Tezos. You've got the NEEK standard on Tezos. I think Ethereum as well. You also have, oh God, there was another one. I can't recall the name of it. I'm not sure how much alpha Sam has dropped on this call when I was going through technical difficulties. So
all of it. You should have heard what he said.
Okay, so
Theo, don't rat me out. I'm gonna have to remove stuff from the space.
Yeah, so we're working on our own token standard for RWAs, where we've taken basically the best of all these different elements in the world and kind of tied them together so that they perform the best on chain in terms of the peer-to-peer connectivity, marketplaces, and obviously when it comes to RWAs, compliance. So we'll have more about that coming soon.
Yeah, because like and the only reason I asked is like I said, there was a lot of times when I was like, why would you do that on let's say an ERC 404 when you could just wait a second and RWAs will be here, like, because for me, when I hear, let's forget about the ERC controversy, but when I hear even the DN 404, which all they did was they split the two contracts, same exact theory, but every time I hear ERC 404, I hear security.
So that's what I wanted to say. I hear 404 web page not loaded. This does not work. 404 errors. Run away.
It's not the best name to give it, obviously, but also keep in mind that this is a very new field, and there aren't the government hasn't set a standard of what the RWAs for assets in the U.S. need to.
I want to jump in. Actually, I want to jump in here, Sam.
Do you hear Sam?
Hold on, I want to jump in because I actually, when it comes to standards, I've been talking about this for years now, and it's not up. It shouldn't be up to the government, and the fact that we're letting it be up to the government is actually quite insane. No, it's up to the creators of these blockchains. All of the creators of these blockchains should find a way to get together and create the goddamn standard. That's what happened with the internet. We called it the Wi-Fi convention. Now, that being said, Sam, go ahead, explain.
We're talking about regulated assets. We're talking about securities, a lot of them. The government will have requirements of what they need.
They will accept what we give them, like what we did with the internet.
Yeah, but they won't let us invest. They won't let us certify.
Yeah.
Some of it will have to be accredited investors. They will start to set standards that will kind of keep us out,
Yeah, Alex, Alex knows a lot about this. He's definitely the best one to speak about this kind of thing.
Yeah, so it's not necessarily about the government setting a standard. I disagree there, and it's not about the creators need to band together and go do it. Well, quite frankly, it's going to go where the market goes. To be fair, the government's going to set a standard for what information or transfer restrictions that are going to need to be there. For example, who you can sell to, who you
Yeah,
can't.
that kind of thing.
But and then it's probably going to move. It's still the wild west of RWAs. There's plenty of picks and shovels to be worked on and made here, but more so, like, think about it this way: like, why is Ethereum right now the de facto thing that people think of when they want to go tokenize something or build a smart contract or whatever it is? Because they have such a large market share that's just what lives in people's minds rent free. So when it comes to RWAs, it's a complete wild west. No one has any idea really what's going on with. It's so sporadic, and no one has any real idea what's going on. Now, on the flip side of that, the government has set standards, really, quite frankly, of what RWAs need to be. I mean, it's really funny. What people don't realize is that RWAs are securities, and those securities have rules and regulations. And as long as you can build in a compliant fashion for those rules and regulations, we call this programmable money for a goddamn reason. Why can't we just, why is it so difficult for people to understand that if you create a programmable RWA, the rules already laid out for you? So it's, to me, it's not going to be the government sets a standard. They're going to set like a rule book that we need to follow. And it's not going to be a band of people that get together. It's going to be where the market moves and who, let's say, is the tip of the spear for that. Who picks up that mantle and drives the industry forward?
That's good.
They won't like give us a. They won't give us a token standard. They just you have to follow the rule book for what needs to be and what we build.
So let's. So what about? So I compared it to the internet, right? Now the internet at a certain point went through a lot of this in the very early stages of its life, and there was a bunch of standardized conventions. People got together and were like, "Look, we need to figure this out." It's the reason we can go on different websites, all accessed through the same internet today. And it's the problem that blockchain is having. It's not interconnected in a way, and it's because none of them have the same standard. It's the conversation we're talking about. So how do we get it there? And why aren't we looking at how the previous steps we're taking in the past, right? And that's always been my question. I've been asking this for years, by the way, and I don't have a good answer for it either. If I did, I would be shouting it from the rooftops, right?
Well, I think we're seeing like a little bit of experiment. The Citibank, they're doing the tokenization on the private equities, so like they're starting like a little bit of it. So I think we're seeing the little bit of experimentation going on.
And there's a deep power to memes, because one of the reasons Web 1 blew up in the way it did is because it was the emergence and the birth of like memes and different things, right? Double rainbow, oh my God, things like that. And why is Ethereum living rent free in everybody's heads? I can tell you exactly why it lives rent free in everybody's heads. It's because of that. It's that picture of Veltec at a party, standing next to a couple girls, looking super awkward, like he just like the most awkward person. He defines what you think someone would look like who builds a blockchain, and he's just sitting there, and he got just such a weirdly huge bulge in his pants. Guys, I hate to say it, but that is the reason why Ethereum will forever live rent free in everybody's heads. It's because of the memes he would put out, like just the absolute sheer stupidity of Veltec is why Ethereum
Well,
is the
as
way
soon
it is.
as I can learn all this, I'll start putting memes out as well. Like I'm still trying to, Alex. So I want to ask you the city thing right here, tokenization of existing assets. They did. The company comes after it completed a proof of concept focused on tokenizing a private equity fund issued by Wellington Management. So, have you been keeping up with this latest thing from Citi?
Of course, I'm very well up to date on the article Sam sent me 2 seconds ago in the background. Thank you, Sam. The city thing I have not seen, but thanks for bringing it to my attention. There are more and more every day. There are different forms of RWAs that are put on chain, which we were just at Bybit's office at the World Trade Center in Dubai, and there was it was not so much a panel discussion, but just like some lawyers, some people from Switzerland, and then also from fractionalized real estate companies. and some VCs. And so we were talking about it's not just real estate that can be tokenized. There's different things. So what you're bringing up right now is the private equity fund, which I actually have a friend who started a company that was tokenizing funds back in the day. I don't see that as the low-hanging fruit of tokenization. It is something that you can do on a one-off basis, but for the most part, I mean, so you tokenize the equity in a fund and it's done. I mean, like maybe you can like have some form of liquidity to like have an investor exit his position early or not, or another investor buy in. But for there's not going to really be a lot of movement there. And if you're trying to, jumpstart an ecosystem, sure, there's an industry for wiper blades for cars, right? But if you're going to jumpstart the car, you need a battery. And the RWA ecosystem right now doesn't have a battery to jumpstart the main engine. And that is going to be, to me, yield bearing assets. You can buy this token, it pays you, it sits in your wallet, and every month you earn something. You get paid. You get USDC, you get USDT, you can transfer that to fiat, you can go buy something else, you can collateralize a loan with it with Maven, but that's going to be the jump starting entity to the whole RWA industry. Funds, great, but like you kind of like you're basically just tokenizing the cap table and it just sits there. And you're kind of done.
I actually agree with you in a way. I don't want to agree with you, but like I do in practice, because one of the only NFT collections I ever really went heavy on and still own was and it was one I never talked about. I would never shill it. I refused to tell anybody about it, and that's because holding them paid me once a month. And I'm actually glad I didn't talk about it in the long run, because a lot of stuff happened with that person, and it's not a thing anymore, and yada yada. But yeah, that made that just single-handedly the best thing I ever put my money into, just because of that purpose. I didn't have to do anything. I didn't have to do any, just literally it just sat in my wallet and accrued yield. So I kind of agree with you. And I think that's on a very base level, no matter what anybody says, that's going to appeal to human beings.
Well, two things that I always point to, like compounding and passive income. That's like two things I think that, like, if you were to say a top 10 things that normal people do, that wealthy people do, like that, the separation of normal and wealthy, like compounding your money, number one, and then finding passive forms of income that pay you each month or quarterly or however, like that is like the key to, like, what, to me, that's the key to stepping towards wealth.
Oh, 100%. I mean, when your money works for you as opposed to you working for money, that's when you can compound your wealth, because essentially the rat race of life is making enough money to get by. But when you make more money than you expend, and you can use that money to then go work for you, and that money makes you money, then you're golden. So, but the thing is, it's really hard to do with the way that I would call it government overregulation and corporate greed have kind of pushed our economies to being, where the regular investor today cannot go buy let's say any form of really an asset or an investment. The only things that you can buy today, for the most part, are things that have IPO'd, which are essentially, in today's day and age, public, internal dumps on the public markets, or real estate. And even with real estate, with the way equities have risen in price, you're looking at needing a tremendous amount of money. I mean, Los Angeles, you can't touch a house below $1 million today. So if you need 20% down, you need $200,000 down. But then you need to save up that $200K. So what do you do with all that? You got $100K with your money. What do you do with it now? You put it into a savings account at the bank, into a CD. The system is almost designed to not let you move anymore. There's no more social mobility. So when it comes to RWAs, and you can then go buy $50,000 of the Hilton, $1,000 of the Hilton, that still pays you $50 a year. You take that $50 a year, and probably more, but I'm just doing it off 5%. But if you're making, let's say, 10% on some investment that you made, and you take the $100 that you made and put it down into another property, and then every month you add a little bit, then you really can compound your wealth. You reinvest your assets, you kind of like add in every month from your paycheck, and you build yourself a mini portfolio. But you can't really do that today. The only thing you can do that with is essentially the public market, where it's all just a bunch of Wall Street bankers dumping on you. You're just the pawn who gets to have a little tiny drop of
Well,
the
Alex,
water.
like you said, it's exits over exits over exits, right? Like it's like the system is built to have people exit upon exit, you know, and that's people upon people. This could be a way where you form something where it's not necessarily the exit, it is the benefit of you investing in something that pays you out from the work that it's done itself, you know, like, and it's not your work, it's the assets work that's making it happen, you know.
Yeah, and that's why that's what I was kind of trying to say on the last space that we were on last week. Is these RWAs, people like to think of it's like, oh, then DAOs are important and governance is important, voting and having a say is important. Although direct democracy can be a catastrophe. So representative democracy seems to work better. But when it comes to tokenization and RWAs and owning fractional pieces of this stuff, it's not about, oh, well, I could vote. I own 0.01% of a Hilton hotel, and my vote counts towards the business, decision. You might not know anything about running a hotel. Your vote, we don't necessarily want your vote as a shareholder, right? And it's not. I'm not saying that in a bad way, but what it does open up is that it democratizes access to investments that have been gate kept from 99% of the world. And that's a totally different ball game than voting. If you own one vote out of 10 million votes, it's negligible, but you're still getting your little slice of the pie. Then you add a little bit in, you get more slices of the pie. But if you're completely not allowed to play the game, well, you're not at the table anymore.
There's a
Yes,
lot. There's a lot to
this
dig
is what
into
excites
here.
me, Alex. This is what excites me.
Yeah, there's a lot to dig into here, though. Just it's trying to be, the person who doesn't know anything, right? And it's so when you were right, like maybe 10 years ago, Alex. But what is that? What is it still that way with the emergence of, say, things like Robinhood? Like, because 10 years ago, yeah, you couldn't even invest in a stock, right? Like, you were just cut out of that. But nowadays, if you even take away all of Web3 together, I mean, we have these new apps like Robinhood and stuff that are allowing just everyday people to come in and buy small
Yeah, but
portions
you're
of
the
stock in
exit on
these companies.
Robinhood. You're the exit on Robinhood. The people have already, I see the people have already seed round in. They've already, they've got the pre-seed, pre-sale, all that stuff. And so by the time you get to Robinhood, they've already profited, and you're now the exit. So that's how I see it.
Yeah,
You're
Crip
probably right,
Kings.
but I don't think it matters because that's always going to be true to some level, whether we're talking about stocks
No,
or crypto.
that's where that's where the difference is. Kripken's completely right. Robinhood came out and just gave you kind of like an easy to use experience for buying into the stock market. You were able to go to like Ally Bank or E-Trade and actually buy and sell stocks. And 10 years ago, you could do it relatively easily. It was very Web 2. I was doing it through high school and college, buying and selling stock. But Robinhood came in and was like, "We're going to make this hip. We're going to give you some access. Oh, you can't afford this stock that's $1,000. We're going to fractionalize it for you." So that's kind of like Web 2.5. You're giving some of the benefits of Web 3.0,
Right.
but not the full benefits. But Crip King's 100% correct. You're still trading the same thing. It's just on an app now instead of your PC in 2005 logging in with like I meant to say old connection, but that's not when it was happening. So the when it comes to Web3 and democratization of access to capital markets or investments or RWAs, essentially, is opening a door to assets you never had the chance to get. you can't really go buy a piece of a hotel today. You can buy into a REIT, which is essentially a fund that manages a portfolio of real estate for you, but you have no real choice of what you get, what you want to buy. You can't liquidate when you want to. You don't get access to buy into it, and that's a really big difference. This public stock market, this crypting is, God, I love you, buddy, because you brought up one of my favorite things in the world to talk about, which is Coinbase's IPO. So Coinbase IPO'd at $100 billion valuation. The first time, they didn't raise capital in their IPO, they did a direct listing, but the first time that a retail investor was legally allowed to buy stock in Coinbase was when it was at $100 billion value. Now, the people who got to buy in earlier, institutions, high net worth individuals, et cetera. And it's not to disparage them because the laws were written by there's lobbying to put the laws that way. But essentially, when a Coinbase IPO'd at $100 billion valuation, all the insiders were selling and all the rest of the people was the first time to buy, so they bought. But what happened after Coinbase's IPO? It went down something like 87%. So it went from $100 billion value to, I think, $13 billion value. And so, now the investor is protected because we've looked at their Excel sheets. I mean, it is, you allow someone to go to Vegas and put their entire life savings on a roulette table all on red, but you don't allow them to put $1,000 into a startup, is mind-boggling overreach of the government. So RWAs is they enable you to live life on your terms, and it's simply access and freedom to access. Now, to circle it back to Maven, because it was quite an ADHD Twitter space tonight, but for those listening later, what we're doing with Maven is essentially not just, it's one thing to tokenize and to give a primary offering in RWA or to go buy it on a secondary market. But if you go buy a tokenized hotel, the way that you usually go with real estate is you go get a loan. You might put 20% down payment and then you get a loan mortgage from the bank for the rest of the 80. With Maven, with on-chain assets, it's going to work a little bit differently in the beginning because there's no credit markets. But let's say you go buy $1,000 worth of a Hilton hotel, you deposit it into a Maven vault. Now you can go borrow up to 50% and get stable coins in return, and then either go buy more of the hotel token and then kind of deposit into your vault to, add to your collateral. Or you can, let's say you have $10,000 worth of a hotel token. You don't want to sell it. It's paying you a nice return. So you put it into your Maven vault and you borrow $3,500 in USDT, for example, and you go blow it on a new Apple Vision Pro.
Or so you hedge it into BTC.
The point is, yeah, exactly. The point is, though, is that Maven will allow you to take instant loans against not just one RWA asset in the near future, but against your entire portfolio of RWA assets. So there's the RWA element, and then there's this multi-collateral vault element, which, every week we're always wanting to talk about our lending and borrowing system. Crypting, you're supposed to grill Sam. I was specifically, hoping you would. Maybe next week.
I was ready.
So maybe next week you will, but
I'm good. I can just
next week is perfect. I'll be ready next week as well.
Whoa! I said we could just set up a call, you and I, and talk about this.
That's good too.
Putting a lot of pressure on.
I still want to grill you guys about exit liquidity, but Alex was smart and changed it to why this relates to Maven, and now I can't say anything. So,
well, let me, Theo, like that actual what Alex was saying is, so I don't like to call it like we got this narrative that you even see it. Look, there was a Jupiter token that got launched on the Solana blockchain. It's now sitting at like 49 cents. When it launched, it hit 80 cents right away and then dumped completely. Why do you think? Because the people were able to get a hold of it before the market was. You look at the Bonk token. As soon as the Bonk token was released to the public, it dumped like 80%. Like, this is a way.
So my problem to
change. This is a way to change that. If you can get ahead of those, or even get an even playing field with those type of investors,
No, I get what you're saying. I just don't buy the premise, because it's like saying that, okay, so Coinbase, the IPO, it went down or whatever, so that's it, it's done. gone. Nobody invests in it anymore.
No.
I think it's silly.
No. Theo,
So let me finish. This is the image that the space is laying down to people who don't know anything about this stuff and who happen to listen to the space. That's the kind of message that I feel like is being put out there, and it's not true. So I brought up Robinhood earlier. Robinhood came out in 2015. Think of all the people who, like, there was 5 years that just normal people downloaded an app and was like, oh, Amazon, I'd like to own some Amazon, even though Amazon's been out for years and was ever. And then guess what happened in 2020? Yeah, COVID. And then Amazon, everybody who invested for those last 5 years, I guarantee they did not feel like exit liquidity. Now you can make the argument that everybody after was exit liquidity, but that's a cycle that we're going to keep going through, and I think it's just it boggles it dirties the whole waters when talking about.
But it's a cycle of privilege that we brought over from Web 2. Like why should I see a project that I invested into, and then I see a list of names of people that were the seed investor founders, that we call them, that got a chance to get on before me. I thought Web3 was supposed to be an even playing field. What we did was we took the same principles that we had in Web2 and we brought them to Web3. We need to cut that. That's the way.
That's true. That's true. And I think it goes back to our very first conversation, Crypt King, and it doesn't matter because it'll always be about education to the normal person. We can build all the technology we want, all the standards we want, but until people are educated on a very fundamental level, I mean, you don't even learn what money is until after high school. You know what I mean? Like, there's some serious structural problems.
The United States has defined accredited investor as somebody who has a net worth of $250,000. So
that's so
as
much money.
Educated as we can be, we still have to reach this certain monetization level before we get a chance, and that's where I think the big problem is. You know.
Well, Crypt King, you're actually you're unfortunately, it's worse than you say. It's a person who's making $250K or has $1 million in assets beyond their primary residence.
So it's not. Oh, yeah. I thought I just snuck by with my house, but I definitely don't make that a year. Fuck me. No.
Exactly. So it's even worse than you're saying, Crypt King. But the thing about tokenization and crypto and stuff is all these pump and dumps are the same thing that are happening on public markets, just in shorter and faster ways. And that's why we have regulatory mechanisms, and God, I can't believe I'm going to say this, the SEC, to look into to make sure that there isn't market manipulation. However, now
I love getting you to say shit you don't want to say.
I know this is terrible, but right now what we need, and I said this at a crypto conference in Gibraltar to a bunch of bankers, is that DeFi is the protectionary mechanism, the consumer protections against banks and government oversight. But when it comes to, you're always going to get this list of people who got into a token before you, because there are people who came in that, they came in when the product was in ideation. There are people that came in and either did get paid or didn't get paid to work on it. There are people, or got paid in tokens. There are people that contributed money to the project. There are people that came in at later stages or later hires. And there will always be in life someone who gets in slightly before you, unless you are the founder of said project. Now, that is also the same case. I'm staring across the street from me right now as a big building. I think there's a hotel inside. If you're going to go buy shares in a hotel that's active and there are clients and whatever, you're not paying the price of the empty land before they put a hotel down there, or before they had the plans for the hotel. You're not, when you buy off-plan housing, you're getting a dramatically lower price than when you're buying a fully operational and, let's say, fully stocked and there's occupancy rates on a hotel. And that's a different thing. In Dubai, off-plan housing is the rage, because by the time it goes to market, it's like 2 to 3x or whatever the rates are. So, but you get that in every market where you buy in early and you take more risk. It's all a matter of how much risk you want to take, and also access and opportunity. In capital markets, or like equity and private equity markets, you're not even allowed to have that opportunity. And that's why tokenization is going to change the game, because it's not that it's just, oh, you own this thing and it pays you. I mean, it's wonderful, don't get me wrong, but it's about opening access to things where you have upside potential on the principal, but then also have this freedom to control your assets and freedom to get paid monthly.
And that's it. That's to boil it down, Alex. I'm just looking how to bump my way up in the line. Like I'm looking how to. That's my whole life goal right now. Is like you just said. Is like yes, I understand there's going to be certain people that's going to always be ahead of me, but how do I take the steps, which this is on stage with y'all learning this product, is how I take steps to learn how to bump ahead of as many as I can, but still understand that always there's going to be people before me unless I am the founder. Yeah.
So I follow a lot of different people. It's really interesting because this stuff fascinates me. I've always been a person who's extremely interested in tech and defense, and so my entire background is both. Um, but you get these people like influencers. Now we think crypto influencers are all, uh, they're looking for eyeballs. They're looking for the next big thing. They're trying to push hype, and they've got a place in this market. And they're needed because when it comes to gaining influence, um, people listen to people. People need someone to follow. It's just the natural course of human beings. You see it in religion. You see it in governments. You see it in family structures. You see it in celebrities, everywhere in humanity. When it comes, so anyways, I follow these people who also, I wouldn't call them like they're not crypto influencers, but they're like kind of like they're trying to be wealth influencers. And so they're like, oh, if you buy this house and you leverage it with a bank, then go put 10 to 20% uh, down on this other thing, like then you can like compound how many assets you own, and over 10 years you own, you've paid off X amount of your property mortgages, you'll be making Y amount of money. And everybody's trying to level up. But when those people start talking about tokenized RWAs, I think they're really um, almost like the missing link between the regular world that wants to invest that Theo's talking about with Robinhood, because Robinhood didn't do anything remarkably innovative. I mean, yes, they allowed for the fractionalization of shares, but they gave you an easier access to the same capital markets that you had before. But when you start getting these crypto influencers who start touting RWAs and being like, listen, you don't have to actually go buy the whole property. You don't need that $50,000 or $100,000 down. Then, and you just go to buy this RWA on this website, and you take a loan on Maven, and then you compound it, and you buy something else, and then recapitalize your loan. I think that's really going to be a missing link to getting the mainstream users to come on board and buy tokenized RWAs and use DeFi. We need to start building platforms that bring value to regular people and users, the way Robinhood brought just made easier access to millennials at a time when millennials finally had disposable income. That linked up really nicely. Um, but with crypto, everybody's still trying to launch like the 430-second L2 with no business plan of what's going to be on it. Oh, we've got low fees. That's great. Like, Satoshi Nakamoto's mother has low fees right now when it comes to L2s. So you need to have a niche focus. You need to have products. You need to have quality. And when we start building those assets for the mainstream cricking, like when your friends come to you and say, "Hey, yo, I need to get a loan on this hotel token I bought," we're there, baby. We're like a year or two away from there.
Yeah, and the way I look at it, because every day I play on liquidity pools, right? Like whether it's Ethereum or Tezos or wherever, this is just a different, like it's just a one level up, like so. Yeah, no, trust me, man, I'm excited about it, and I think what you were trying to say earlier, there, those are wealth signalers. Like they signal to others that hey, this is going on, and I saw it also with the people that I run with. I run with a lot of people that completely hate certain degen stuff that we do, that they even started to ask me like, hey, I heard on your show you start talking about RWAs, let's have a talk about that. Like I've got several messages like that, so it's already out there. It's like you said, now it's just a point of, and certain influencers are educators, they're actually that's how I look at myself. Like I need to give the right information, and I need to give the information that actually, is tangible. People can actually take the information and go apply it to their everyday life.
Yeah, that's one of the really interesting things about KOLs. It's really funny to say that because, like, KOLs are just the modern form of what they used to call like a political, like a pundit. You get someone that comes on CNN and gives their opinion, and you're like, who the fuck's this person? But KOLs are just like kind of like the new wave, like these wealth advisors and wealth influencers. I saw that there was a guy that I really like to follow. I'm not going to go into his name because I'd love to get him on the show on the Twitter Spaces sometime soon. He's not based in Dubai, but he's kind of from the UK. Because I don't want to give it away. If I start going into his like
Jim
history, you'll know
Cramer?
exactly who it is.
Jim
What?
Cramer?
Jim Cramer's not British.
I'm joking. I'm joking.
So no, but if I go into his family history, it's funny because I told someone I met with this influencer from XYZ. Like, he's from here, but he's done this and he's lived there. And all of a sudden, my business partner asked me, he goes, "Wait a minute, is it this guy?" So if I give his story away, you'll definitely know who it is. But I saw he was in Dubai, and I was like, "Hey, yo, love everything you're posting. Let's grab a coffee." So he said, "Sure." We met up. We grabbed coffee, and then there was just a super. I mean, it just hit it off. Great guy, amazing, like, kind of take on things in life, and that's why I wanted to meet him. I had absolutely no clue how many followers he had on Instagram and YouTube and Twitter when I met him, and we were kind of going over this stuff when we were talking. But it's exactly that. It's these people that give you insight into all these other things in the world. People need to listen to somebody else. I can't remember the exact word you said, Crypt King, but these influencers are
Signalers.
signalers, educators, because we've also come to learn today that we can't really rely on our traditional educations. As Theo said, you don't learn about money in college even these days. I was in a government and counterterrorism bachelor's and master's, and so we don't get the best, as you can imagine. It's not a finance degree. We don't get the best, economics degrees or courses. And so we were in macroeconomics, and there was this person I'm not going to go into their details, but where they asked, I'm specifically saying they, to not give anything away, but they're like, I don't get it. When price goes up, why does demand go down? Now, that should be a really scary thing to be your third time in macro econ and not understand supply and demand. But people really don't have educations into finance at all. They just think money is something that you work for, and it's something that you spend, and either sometimes you make more of it, sometimes you make less of it, and they don't even know what it's backed by outside of like V22 Ospreys and F22 Raptors. You know, it's there's a good part of the population that believes the dollar is still backed by gold. It's nuts.
Bro, the other day I heard somebody say that they're like, wait, the dollar's not backed by gold on Spaces, and it was a pretty educated person.
Yeah, I
Jeez,
just
that's crazy.
no, I mean, I was just having this conversation with my wife, who still, I mean, she's heard me say it a bunch of times, but it's really hard for the normal person to wrap their head around. And I remember I didn't learn about this. I didn't know that the dollar wasn't backed by gold up until I started coming to these spaces. Up until like COVID, and when I started like really looking into like when gurus became popular and started shouting it from the rooftops, and like I didn't know any of this crap. And that's crazy to think about, that I didn't learn about any of this until I was at least 25, we'll say 5 years ago, 4 or 5 years ago. And I still have these conversations with like my wife, her parents, and it's just like, you might as well be trying to convince the trees, man. Like, yeah, it's really hard for normal people to wrap their head around that.
We're a program society, and we're so used to being fed instead of like going and hunting. So like that's the biggest problem, is like we're looking for the next get rich quick scheme instead of looking for the next foundational long-term play that actually not only is good for your generation but your next generations. And that's where, like, it's tough, like, because a lot of this information is the difference of how previous generations have catapulted forwards, and the middle class always stays closer to the low class, like, so finally we're in an era where we can maybe make a difference.
Well, economies are changing, and that's why I really loved what you said about educators. I gotta remember that one, but um, we're decimating the middle class now. The middle class is in a terrible place. So and you're looking at this wealth distribution that is more so looking towards, and I don't want to say the 1%, because people are people, no matter how rich you are, rich, poor, middle class, upper, lower, whatever. Everybody's always, and that's a thing that I've learned in Dubai. Everybody, no matter who you are or where you are on the totem pole, everybody wants to move up. And obviously, the less disposable income you have, the harder it is to move, because you've got less liquidity to go buy things or invest. But when you start rigging the game against the majority of the people, that's when educators really need to come in and start telling you, like, hey, look, you've got these other alternative, opportunities, and not just, hey, work 9 to 5, maybe pay into a 401k. You've got Social Security. That system's broken anyways. And you need to get into other alternative assets. And then, I mean, this isn't, there's a wealth opportunity here of, kind of like the world before the internet and the world after the internet. There's the world before blockchain and will be after blockchain, albeit with a longer adoption period. But every time I think of this, to circle back to the dollar for a second, every time I think of when I buy Bitcoin, you have to like train yourself to think, I'm not buying Bitcoin, I'm selling fiat. I am getting rid of this asset that is going down in price, and I'm buying a hard asset. It doesn't produce yield, right? It's not a hotel that's going to pay you, or multifamily housing that gives you rent, but you are buying a finite asset that for the first time ever, the world can buy into. Let's say people use gold for that aspect. I think we've gotten to a point where it's a bad argument for gold, because it's funny. Crip King, why do you think, what have you been cited when you talk to people about like gold, for example, why they're buying gold?
Ooh, they're buying gold because they believe that if there's a World War II, III, or whatever, that it is the best form of monetary that they could have. Yeah, that's what I get.
Yeah, that's funny, because that was exactly what I was going for. So, guys, just to let you know, if our entire ecosystems collapse and there's World War III and all of our financial systems go offline, become friends with Persians, because every Persian's probably got like a stack of gold under their pillow. At my bar mitzvah, everybody's like, here is a little piece of gold, and they give you these little gold, these little plastic cases. But the thing is that most people buy and sell
gold against my stock of toilet paper? I got you there, don't I?
Theo, no, you nailed it right there. So most people buy gold on digital markets. It's sitting in some vault in Switzerland or Fort Knox or somewhere, and they're not actually buying physical gold. So it's, if the world goes to shit, your digital share of gold that's sitting in someone else's bunker is gone. And so if you really want to stock up on something that's going to be worth tons of picks and shovels, it's always about the picks and shovels, not the gold that's in the river. And
the beans, you got to get beans.
Yeah. Well, I was going to go for guns and ammo, but it's if the world really goes to hell, you know what the price of a 5.56 round's going to? So that you could defend yourself? Food, shelter, ammo. So it's not, no one's going to be like giving a damn about your like gold paper shares of what's sitting in or not even paper shares, digital, of something that's sitting across the Atlantic in Switzerland, if there's no electricity to even turn on your computer.
That's what I was gonna say. The electricity part is the big factor. Is like if we're already to that level, we've lost a lot of our certain powers that we had before, like electricity. Like certain platforms won't even be running that you need to cash out on. Like there's gonna be a lot of massive.
It brings me back to what I was gonna say earlier in the conversation. You reminded me, everybody wants to move up, but the game is rigged. And what happens when the game is so goddamn rigged? And I think that's what we kind of see with happening with millennials in America. Because contrary to what you said, most people my age are trying to move down, right? They're trying to get out of the city. They're trying to go into the damn woods, start a little farm, and disconnect before it all goes to hell. It is a real fear of this happening. So I would actually say that it's, weirdly enough, a lot of people are trying to move down, which is why it's getting even harder to sell people on this stuff, because they've given up already completely. They want to own a tiny home and a little garden. And
But
Yeah, but that's because they
but inflation
can't afford a bigger one.
And that's what I was going to say. And then inflation traps you. Right now, most of us are trapped wherever we're currently at because inflation has trapped us, like either by you can't sell your house because the other housing market is crap. And if you go, like, if you notice and you start to look at your own situation, you'll start to see that they've trapped us all with inflation.
Well, inflation
Yeah.
is basically a secret shadow tax on society, and so I think it's astronomically terrible that we're at $35 trillion, 34, $35 trillion in debt now in the U.S., and we think we can spend. Well, I should say actually, there's only one side of the political spectrum that thinks that they can spend their way out of an inflation problem. So, and what happens when you got this inflation? I tried explaining this to my mother. Um, Things aren't going up in price. Again, it's like one of those things where it's like you're not buying Bitcoin, you're selling fiat. Things aren't going up in price. The value of your currency is going down in price, and you can
Another
see
thing
that.
you
Like,
will never be able to explain to another. Oh God, better off explaining that to the truth.
well, I mean, just think of, for example, like, I mean, watch. I was gonna say Backstreet Boys, not Backstreet Boys. Back to the Future, right? And you look at Marty McFly when he's working in the diner or whatever it was. It was like 10 cents for a burger, or like 5 cents for a gallon of gas or something. And where are we today? It's like $4 for a gallon of gas in the States.
Yeah, go look at how many eggs you can purchase off of a farm for a certain amount of dollar, like 10 years ago compared to now. Like, that's like your simplest way to see how your value of your dollar purchases less now.
Yeah, milk. I go with milk. Yeah, it's probably, let's see, definitely 3x, might have 4x in the last 5 years.
That's nuts. That's really nuts. And you also, I go by beer, but I've lived in several places where beer is
That's
just
another
not.
good one. No more dollar beers, Alex. They're fucking gone. No more natty
I
daddies,
know.
bro.
You used to
Dollar.
be able to go to like UCLA or downtown, well, in Los Angeles at least, like kind of closer to USC campus, UCLA campus, and go get like on a Thursday or Friday night or something like some happy hour dollar beers. In Barcelona,
Gone.
on the beach in Barcelona or La Rambla, if you're lucky enough to keep your phone and not have it like stolen on the Rambla, you used to be able to buy a beer for €1. And well, Dubai is not a good example of this, but a beer is $15 here
Well, here's the other
in a
thing
bar.
people aren't thinking about: the Arizona iced teas that had 99 cents printed on the damn can. Like my whole life, up until the last 5 years. Just little things like that.
They
Companies,
took that shit
Oh,
off, right?
like
Arnold Palmer
coffees.
is amazing, guys. Arnold Palmer is the best ever.
Yeah,
At
yeah,
No,
it's
no,
99
great.
cents.
Theo, you nailed it because that's a sore point for me because they would sell Arizona in those cans in Israel and it would still have 99 cents on it. And then you would see that like, in shekels, it came out to like $3 to $5, but it still had the 99 cents printed on the can. And that's a sore.
Oh, that was an accident. I was reacting and I muted you. You say that, but I grew up in the Commonwealth, my friend. So it would say 99 cents on the can, and then they'd slap you with all that Massachusetts tax. And then, yeah, oh yeah.
Yeah, and
Oh,
the flip side of this, Theo, is so also my job. So like last 10 years of my job in the corporate world has been a 3% raise every year, right? But they don't keep up with the price of inflation. So I'm like, okay, I understand you're giving me a 3% raise, and I brought this up year after year, and they just like ignore me. And I'm like, but you're not readjusting my income for the cost of inflation. And so after 10 years, my 3% raise is like worth 0.99% because the cost of the dollar is just trash. So little things like that constantly traps us because we can't do as much as we did before, and our jobs don't like keep up with the cost of inflation to readjust our income consistently.
so this is where I actually think again, not intentionally to circle back, but I'm going to use it as an opportunity to. This is where RWAs and tokenization come in to into play because most companies and most jobs outside of let's say publicly traded companies or startups won't give you equity in their companies Now it's a lot easier to give tokens in a DeFi app if you're an employee at an app. It is, but if you're not going to IPO or get acquired, most companies don't give out, ownership in equity or assets, which both ties them to the company and also, depending on the level size of the company, it gives them some form of passive income over time or helping their income. When we start to more easily be able to issue RWAs, when you get this, this factory, the conveyor belt, call it, of or the production line of RWAs out there, companies can start issuing equity in the company to employees invested over periods of times, or give them options more easily and in a more liquid fashion or more equitable fashion to keep them in. So they might not need to give you a raise necessarily every single year or keep up with the rate of inflation, which they may or may not have doing. The last 4 years has been wild when it comes to inflation, but you can start having more equitable reasons for like to stay at a company than just a paycheck.
Totally agree with that. Totally. And
Yeah,
and then the other part is, if we're buying into the baseline of it, it's like being ahead of the ETF as well, where that excites me as well, because I can buy into it, on the RWA standard instead of through my company, where they might offer a little bit, some fees and some higher stuff on top of it, like, so that excites me as well.
Oh, fees will definitely go down because, like, once we tokenize all these different things, imagine, like, if you look at UVest, and they've created this, I think it's UDeFi, but they created a token which tracks other DeFi tokens on chain. We'll be able to create different digital ETFs that track either hold a portfolio of assets, or it's a token that represents ownership. I mean, it's basically a REIT, but a token that represents ownership in a hotel in Los Angeles, Miami, Dallas, New York, Kansas City, just because it's on the top of my head. And new people will be the same way that people would be able to create their own, like, God, we're short on time, but I want to dive into, like, there are poker companies that will allow you to set up your own poker room digitally online.
Of time. We're over time.
We're over time?
Close to 30 minutes.
Short of time? So, but the same way that we have like, there are gambling companies that will allow you to create your own, like, your own digital poker table online, and you can invite people to your game. We're going to have the infrastructure available. We have it today. It just needs to really be, I would say, executed on, where people can say, you know what, I'm going to create my own ETF with a basket of these assets, and I'm going to sell it, and I'm going to make these fees. Imagine the ability to create your own ETF and make royalties off of that asset management. There are
Bro, use me as a guinea pig, Alex. I want to. That's what excites me right there, is what you just said.
They're up and take my money from Futurama emoji, because
go.
I have one from someone where it was where we were in a Twitter space. Oh, it was well, you'll find out more tomorrow. But where we were in a Twitter space with this other group, and they were talking to me about something that they were doing, and I was like, I kind of just, there was a Rick and Morty meme where it's like, you son of a bitch, I'm in. Like, that meme is that one, and the Futurama one I live by.
Yeah, there's a certain meme. There's a little girl that's throwing the cash out the window. Like, that's what I just saw in my head when you said that.
I hopefully everybody feels this way after listening to this space, all the listeners and listening to the recording. We went kind of in a bunch of different directions, but we have a lot to talk about. It's only episode 4, and we have a lot to say, right? So tune in next Monday. Next Monday we'll be here again, and we'll be talking about the same stuff. If not going over the app. I know we keep telling you guys we're going to go over the Dapp, but we keep having amazing conversations, right? So we'll go over the Dapp one of these days, and then if not, do it live, right, Alex, right, Sam? Live.
Wait, y'all's
Theo?
Dapp is already live on the App Store?
No,
No,
Dapp on the GhostNet. Right, just to clarify.
Crip King. Right now, the Dapp is live on GhostNet with a multi-collateral oracles, lending, borrowing, and the decentralized oracle system as well for data feeds. But Theo, there's something that you need to do before we get off this space, considering you just said something that popped into mind, and I'm going to get really geeky right now to make Sam smile. is before we get off.
You said multi-collateral oracles and not multi-collateral vaults. So I think your brain might need a rest, buddy.
Yeah, it is 10:30, and first day of the week, and I'll probably try and get some early sleep tonight. But Theo, you should change the name of the space to Episode 4: A New Hope, RWAs, based off of Star Wars. Anyone?
Done. It's already there.
Oh, I thought you were about to start singing the theme song. Dun, dun. Like I thought you were doing that.
Dun, 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 dun. Gary Gensler comes on. Dun, 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 dun.
What immediately comes to my head is my son, actually, he's 4, but he's beaten Lego Star Wars 2 on the GameCube. And I have to read the scroll for him every time the scrolls come up. I got to read them in that voice. Here with the Galactic Empire, we got to destroy the rebels at their base. Anyway, we got to go. We got to wrap this up.
That was good. Hey, Sam, the longest spaces I've ever done before is 7 days and 12 hours straight.
Yeah, I've done some. Sam, you don't even know. Oh my God, let's not. I try to block out those early years in the Spaces, Crypt King, when we were just here 24/7, all day, every day, talking about.
Did you say
absolutely
like a
nothing.
7-day space?
Yes, we did a Christmas marathon that went 7 days, and on the 7th day, somebody fell asleep as a host.
Bro, yeah, we used to sleep in those spaces. That's what I was about to say. We used to sleep in those spaces. Everybody would just mute and go to sleep for a minute, and then they'd wake up and the space would continue. Yeah, that was a wild time of my life.
So the longest one that I know of, Evil Plan, is one of a good friend. He has a big project on Ethereum. He went 42 days straight before he accidentally disconnected from the space.
No, he definitely has an iPhone, because you ain't doing that on an Android. Now, speaking of someone hosting from an Android, let's wrap this up before we get rugged. We're getting close to that. Androids aren't allowed to go over 2 hours mark. So that being said, thank you again, everybody, for coming out, and tune in next Monday. Keep an eye out on the Twitters for a bunch of cool announcements that you might be seeing this week. So keep an eye on the Twitter. Keep an eye out for the next space announcement. Go ahead, Alex.
We're going to ban Elias from tweeting anything for the rest of the week.
Yeah, probably a safe bet. And with that being said, thank you, everybody, and we'll see you next Monday. Everybody have a great day now.